You're listening to Brunch with me, Noreen Mayer, on this Friday morning. Now let's turn to our next guest of today. In fact, our very last guest of the Year of the Rabbit. And in the next 15 minutes or so, we're joined by sailor Nicholas Halliday. And he's here to talk a little bit more about his experience of becoming the first athlete from the territory to make the upcoming Paris Olympics in sailing. Welcome on the program, Nick. It's great to see you today. How are you?
Hi, good, thank you.
We are live this morning on Facebook, and I'd love our listeners to join us there if you can. Noreen Mayer on RTHK Radio 3. So let's rewind. Let's go back right to the beginning. When did your interest in sailing begin?
I guess I started sailing when I was 8 years old, but I started getting really interested when I was 10 or 11 years old.
Were you a good sailor back then?
No, I was horrible. I was a horrible sailor.
And in terms of coaching, how much training did you have to do, sort of?
When I was younger, I'd just go out on the weekends and go out for the whole day, Saturday, Sunday, and just try to experience it as much as possible.
Wow, the whole weekend.
Yeah.
Yeah. With sailing, it's quite a sociable sport, but then once you're actually out on the boat, it can be just sort of you on your own. What's your experience in this area been like?
It's a bit weird because, your coach is watching you and you're just out there racing your own with your own thoughts, and yeah, you gotta navigate by yourself, and it's a bit daunting, I guess.
Yeah, I suppose that's a really interesting way to look at it. I saw in another interview that you're an avid basketball player.
Yeah, I really enjoyed basketball in middle school, yeah.
Yeah, so what made you sort of pick one over the other? What made you pick sailing?
I wouldn't say I was better at sailing. I think I just had more friends in sailing, so that's why I picked sailing over basketball.
But you're a really good basketball player too.
Yeah, I really enjoyed basketball, yeah.
So what was it about sailing that you enjoyed the most? Was it the social aspect? Was it being, with your own thoughts? What was it?
I think just being out on the water and kind of playing with the weather and playing with the wind, just being in the elements of it, yeah.
Yeah. Talk us through some of your training days. What's a typical training day like for you?
Nowadays, I guess I usually start gym or cycling around 9 a.m. and then go for a sail in the afternoon, and usually I do that 6 days a week.
That's incredible. And does it matter what the weather is like, or do you prefer different training conditions?
No, I definitely prefer different training conditions to just get a feel for everything. But of course, we can't sail in too extreme wind or if there's lightning. Yeah.
Oh, yeah, of course. Yeah. Now, I know that you're gearing up for Greece this coming Monday. Tell us a little bit more about that race.
Yeah, so this is the European Championships, and a lot of the top sailors will be there. And yeah, it's just a good event just to prepare for the Paris Olympics.
Yeah. And how do you typically prepare for a big race then?
Well, usually I would go a bit earlier to get a feel for the conditions, but this time I just came back from the World Championships last week in Adelaide, and I wanted to spend a little bit more time back at home before I left, so I'm going a bit later. But usually I'd spend a little bit more time, get to know the conditions and get a feel for what the venue is all about.
Yeah. Do you get to sort of train at all when you get to different places? Is it arranged? Talk us through that process.
So usually the regatta is about a week long, and in between events there could be like a week or 2 weeks in between events. So in the next 3 months I have 3 big events, and yeah, definitely got to do a little bit of training in between events to get used to the conditions.
Yeah. Talk us through that feeling of being out at sea. Describe that feeling. What's that like for you?
It's a bit natural for me at the moment. Like, I can see it'd be a bit... Sometimes when I'm out there alone, it's a bit like, oh my gosh, I'm in the middle of nowhere. No people around. But yeah, it's kind of natural, and I got a good feeling for it, yeah.
Yeah. Do you ever get seasick, or have you ever been seasick before?
No, never been seasick, yeah. Thank goodness.
Yeah, well, yeah, of course, if you're competing at this level. I suppose it's because I wonder if seasickness can be developed or, brought on, but I suppose it's just one of the lucky few people who just
Yeah,
don't get it.
I think you either just have it or you don't. Yeah.
That's a good thing. And when did you decide to sort of become a full-time athlete then?
I made the decision when I was 18 years old to become a full-time athlete. I just decided like this is what I want to do, and I did it. Yeah.
Yeah. What were some of the sort of voices from your friends and your family when you decided to do this?
No, they're very supporting. Like my parents were like, "Yeah, you got to do it. You love it, and yeah, go for it."
Well, seeing they were the ones who kind of pushed you into
Yeah.
the training every weekend.
Yeah.
Yeah, they must be so proud of you and the incredible results that you've achieved, Nicholas. Can you share any memorable experiences with our listeners? Bearing in mind some of them may not have been sailing in their life. Talk us through that feeling and can you share any memories with us?
Actually, just last week during the World Championships, I think I had the best race of my life. It was somewhere in the middle of the event, and I started and popped out of the starting line and ended up in the top 3, and I was like, oh my gosh, this is great. Took a great shift on the left side and was battling it out with the Olympic champion and one of the top sailors from Hungary. And it was a bit daunting because the Olympic champion was like right on my butt, and I could feel him hunting me down, and he didn't like me in front of him. But I managed to stay in front of him and ended up winning the race.
That's incredible, Nick. What was that feeling like? Did you feel intimidated or did it sort of give you a rush? What was that like?
Yeah, I was definitely intimidated. It was super scary being in front of this guy. He's an absolute unit, and oh man, yeah.
And also, did you get to meet him afterwards? I mean, is it quite a sociable sport afterwards when you go to these races?
Oh yeah, it's definitely. All the top guys are very nice and they're very sociable. It's a really good community.
Yeah. Do they sort of give you some tips? Is it that sort of a community,
Yeah.
in this situation, or do they share what they've learned along the way?
Yeah, definitely. Yeah, they definitely give tips, and you definitely learn a lot from these top guys, and it's great.
Yeah. Growing up and, practicing your art and your sport, was there anybody you looked up to, anybody who you tried to, learn the skills from?
There are definitely a couple in Hong Kong. There's one sailor, Sam Sakai, and he's a great sailor. He's probably one of the best in Hong Kong, and he's such a natural sailor as well. And he would come over and do some training with us, and just to learn from him, it was so great when I was younger.
Oh,
Yeah.
and years down the line, someone might say that about you.
I hope so.
Also, yeah. So, talk us through some of the qualities of a good sailor. What makes, somebody good at sailing? Perhaps it can be temperament or qualities, in your opinion.
You definitely got to be a bit level-headed, I'd say, and you got to learn to adapt to the conditions and not take everything too seriously because the wind or the weather changes like that. It's definitely a hard sport to like predict, so you can't predict everything.
Yeah, wow, yeah, that's really kind of philosophical. I mean, what do you do in that situation when you're out at the sea and you're on your own and perhaps you feel a bit frazzled? What goes through your head and how do you, I suppose, talk to yourself?
I guess you just got to try and do the best you can, and if things are not going so well, you just kind of make the best use of the situation as possible and just keep sailing fast, keep trying to sail the windships as good as possible, and hopefully the result ends up okay.
Yeah. Has there been any sort of scary experiences for you being out at, the sea?
I wouldn't say scary in the sense of life-threatening, but definitely scary, like you're going a bit fast and you're kind of holding on, and yeah, the waves are big and you're surfing a massive wave, and yeah, that kind of scary, yes.
Yeah. And a rush and probably quite
Yeah.
exhilarating,
Yeah.
but yeah, scary also.
Very much so, yeah.
We talked just now before the interview. I heard that you actually don't like the water very much.
No, I hate swimming in the water. I hate being inside the water. It's horrible. Yeah, I'm just scared of big fish and just whatever's underneath me.
Which actually is a great motivator and makes complete sense, because the whole point of you sailing is to be in the boat and to stay on top and not be in the water.
Yeah.
So that's actually a great motivating factor. Now, when it's really, really windy and you feel sort of a bit, intimidated by the elements, what do you tell yourself? And, does a training sort of set kick in? Are you on autopilot? These are the steps. How does it work? Because I really admire people who can stay calm in these sort of extreme conditions. It's really no joke to be out in choppy waters and really a windy condition. What sorts of things do you tell yourself?
Well, the boat that I sail is quite a small boat, and it's a very simple boat, and it can take like pretty heavy conditions. So I know if things do go wrong, it's very easy to kind of fix yourself and fix up the boat, and yeah, really nothing bad can go wrong out there, I think. So
That's a good mindset also. And finally, Nick, how are you preparing for Paris? How are you feeling about this? First of all, congratulations. It must be such an amazing feeling. How are you preparing for that? Well, you've got another big race. You've got several races before that too.
Yeah, so the next 3 months, I'm just doing a couple races with the top guys and just kind of see where I'm at. And then after that, I can start training in Marseille, where the Olympics will be. And just to get used to the conditions and kind of train the mistakes that I will make in the next 3 months in the regattas.
Yeah. Do you watch back your own race? Do you see how you've performed previously? How does it work?
Oh yeah. Often we have trackers, so we can watch our sailing after the race is done. And I like to look back on the tracker and kind of see what mistakes I've made and see where I can make extra gains. And improve the next day.
Wow. And when you're training, is it the whole package? You have to eat well, train well. Are you allowed any cheat days?
Well, we train so much that we just eat and eat and eat, and we have to maintain a certain weight. I'm 85 kilos, so I gotta maintain that. So I gotta just keep eating, and you generally try to be a bit healthier though. Like eat your greens and don't eat too much candy. But
Just difficult. Chinese New Year's coming up. What sorts of pearls of wisdom can you share with some of our perhaps young listeners who are tuning in, who like sailing but hasn't really taken that leap? I mean, what sorts of things can you share with them?
Well, when I was younger and I was really going for doing well in sailing, I'd just show up to each practice and every single practice and even do a little bit extra. Before training, I'd launch maybe a half hour or an hour earlier and go out there, warm up a bit, do my own sailing before the other guys come out. Just show up every day, I'd say. Yeah.
And Nick, what was that feeling like when you found out that you qualified for the Paris Olympics? What did it feel like for you?
Just such relief. I was going for the 2020 Olympics in Tokyo, and I missed out on that by a couple of points. So that was a bit sad. And then I also, just 6 months ago in the Asian Games, I was going for a medal at the Asian Games, but I ended up 4th. So to qualify for the Olympics this round and do it by winning the regatta is just such a relief.
I like that choice of word, relief, because it's so just sort of like when you just miss out on something. And we talked about this earlier also. I think a lot of times when you're an athlete, people focus on the success and that sort of the point of getting somewhere. But actually there will be setbacks, and there'll be times when you didn't do your personal best and all of that. What's that learning curve like for yourself? I suppose, what do you tell yourself when you're facing some sort of setback?
Oh my gosh, it's definitely hard. I've had so many setbacks in the past that you kind of just pick yourself up a little bit easier every time. So I think after a couple of days, I'm already okay, next goal. I got to get training again and go for it.
Whoa, that's incredible. That's really good. I suppose that's the beauty of sports as well. The endorphins also can help with mental health and whatnot. But there will be days where, like you said, where you really feel down, and having a great community, which it seems like the sailing community. Is there a message you like to share with your fans and also the people that you've worked with in the past decade?
I guess just thank you for supporting me. I think I have a lot of people supporting me behind the scenes. Like I have a gym coach, I have nutritionist, I have a physio as well, and my coach as well. There's a whole
It's like
scene.
a whole tribe.
Yeah,
of people.
seriously, we're a big team, and I gotta thank everybody because I couldn't do it without them.
Yeah. Remind our listeners once again, Nick, have you got any social media, or how can people follow your journey? Are you online? Have you got a website, or how can they find out more about your work?
I do have an Instagram, nick.halliday, and I post sometimes on that account, just my training sessions. So yeah, give it a follow if you want to know more about me.
Yeah, well, you're a busy guy, so perhaps, that the updates will be sporadic. Meanwhile, thank you so much for your time today. Nick, I really enjoyed chatting with you, and that's Nicholas Halliday, and he's the first athlete from the territory to make the upcoming Paris Olympics in sailing, and all the best in Greece for your upcoming race. Thank you so much.
Thank you so much.
We had 12